You know, when you walk into any major bookstore today, there is always that one massive, unavoidable section.
Oh, yeah, the self-help aisle.
Right, exactly, the personal growth aisle. And right there, nestled between, paperbacks on optimizing your morning routine and how to be a more empathetic manager, you will inevitably find these ancient, beautifully bound texts.
Like a Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, the Tao Te Ching, the Diamond Sutra, or maybe a premium leather-bound Bible.
Hmm.
And we treat them like ancient life hacks.
We really do. We just pull from them whatever we need for the day.
Right. You read a verse to lower your blood pressure, or you find some obscure quote to help you deal with a toxic environment at the office. We extract a little moral grounding, and we feel, I don't know, incredibly accomplished.
Like we've checked the spirituality box for the week.
Exactly. But what if our modern society has completely miscategorized them? What if these revered texts, the absolute foundational pillars of human thought, were never actually meant to be self-help at all?
That is the big question.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a massive stack of notes and sources to go through for you, and our mission today is to explore a radical reinterpretation of the Tao, or the Way. We are going to examine how traditions from completely different parts of the ancient world might actually share a single, highly specific, and entirely unexpected purpose. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to even approach this material properly, we have to completely strip away our modern preconceptions, the ones we've built up over centuries.
Which is easier said than done, right?
Oh, definitely. But before we can even begin to understand the texts themselves, the sources demand that we redefine two core concepts: religion and the Tao itself, because the way they are presented in these sources is radically different from our contemporary definitions.
Yeah, because my immediate association with the word religion is highly institutional. I picture massive architecture, cathedrals, temples, basilicas.
Right, a very physical space.
Exactly. I picture a congregation going in on a specific day of the week, performing a rigid set of rituals, burning incense, listening to a moral sermon, and then, going home to start their week. It feels very isolated to a specific time and place.
And that formalized view is exactly what the sources argue against. According to the deep linguistic and historical analysis in our stack today, the root meaning of religion has absolutely nothing to do with performing rituals in a designated building.
So what is it then?
Well, the fundamental original meaning translates to the highest education.
The highest education.
Yeah.
Wow, that reframes the whole concept for me.
It really does.
Because calling it the highest education implies a curriculum. It implies an actual return on investment for the student who enrolls in it.
Right. It's active, not passive.
Sure.
Furthermore, the texts describe the Tao, which is this ultimate foundational truth that many of these traditions circle around as the mother of all things.
Mother of all things. Okay.
Yeah, and the crucial operative detail here is that the Tao is explicitly engineered to be beneficial. The sources point to a specific Chinese phrase, li er buhai.
Li er buhai.
Exactly, which translates directly to beneficial and never harmful.
Okay, I understand the philosophical appeal of that, but I have to be honest, it sounds incredibly abstract.
Sure, it can sound that way at first.
Because if I'm investing my time in the highest education, and you are promising me that it's fundamentally beneficial, I need to know the deliverable. Like, it makes me think about practical utility.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like the analogy from the text, right? I wouldn't buy a closet full of expensive winter coats just to let moths eat them behind a closed door.
Right, that would be a waste of money.
And I wouldn't pay for a premium cup of coffee just to leave it sitting on the kitchen counter to get cold.
Right.
You buy the coat to wear it in the snow. You buy the coffee to drink it and wake up. So, to push back a little on this lofty philosophy, if the Tao is the ultimate highest education, what is its actual tangible utility for us today? Like, what exactly are we supposed to be drinking?
That is a great question, and the sources address that exact demand for utility. They pivot away from the abstract and focus heavily on the mechanics of how the Tao actually operates.
Okay, mechanics. I like that.
Yeah, it is not presented as some mystical floating energy field that you just passively feel. The sources describe the Tao as an observable, mathematically predictable law or pattern.
So less like a spiritual aura and more like the immutable laws of thermodynamics or gravity.
Yes, exactly. Think about the empirical reality of the physical world. We rely on natural laws. The cyclical nature of our seasons is probably the most universally understood example.
Right.
You don't need to be a mystic to know that spring brings the thaw, summer brings the heat, autumn requires the harvest, and winter brings the freeze.
It just happens.
Right. That cycle is an empirical, unyielding pattern. Because it operates as a closed-loop system, if you are currently standing in the middle of spring, you possess the predictive power to know that summer is inevitably approaching.
Yeah, it completely removes the element of chaos. It turns the passage of time into a reliable equation.
Exactly. And the fascinating argument here is that the Tao operates on that exact same principle of a closed loop, just scaled up to govern the entirety of existence.
Oh, wow. So
It is a predictable sequence of historical and cosmic events.
that completely answers my question about utility. Because if you apply that kind of predictable sequence to the human condition, I mean, the implications for survival are massive.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources make a brilliant distinction here about human nature. They argue we are uniquely wired to live for the future, not just the present.
Yeah, our evolutionary survival essentially mandates it. We are always projecting forward.
Which completely flies in the face of our modern obsession with living in the moment.
It really does.
Because if you strictly practice modern mindfulness, completely ignoring the overarching pattern of the seasons, you aren't going to stockpile grain in the summer.
Right.
You won't chop firewood in the autumn. And when that empirical closed-loop system brings winter to your doorstep,
Right.
you will simply be eliminated.
You won't survive.
Yeah. The sources use this rather intense analogy about a train moving along a set of tracks. If you decide you don't care about the trajectory of the track, and you step outside that pattern, it's not just a minor inconvenience.
No, the train derails.
It leads to absolute catastrophic disaster. But that leaves me with a mechanical question.
Okay, what is it?
If these tracks, this Tao, are so vast and so vital for human survival, how did ancient thinkers actually manage to perceive a pattern that massive? How do you map a track that spans centuries?
To answer that, we have to look at the primary source for this, which is Laozi, the legendary author of the Tao Te Ching. The material points us directly to a deep analysis of chapter 25 of the text. Laozi is attempting to describe his vision of this overarching pattern, and he writes that he perceived a thing confusedly formed. The Chinese phrase is yu wu hun cheng, and he says this existed before heaven and earth.
A thing confusedly formed. That language alone suggests a lack of clarity.
Yeah, and he goes further, describing it as silent and void. Now, a massive portion of modern academic scholarship interprets that as beautiful, mystical poetry about the emptiness of the universe.
Right, very zen.
Exactly. But our sources argue something entirely literal and mechanical. It means the thing Laozi was looking at was severely blurry.
Blurry, really?
Yeah, it was in a mixed up, undefined state. Laozi openly admits in the text that he didn't actually know its true name. Because his vision of it was too unclear to properly categorize it, he forced a placeholder name upon it.
And that placeholder was the Tao.
Yes, he called it the Tao, and he also used the term great or Tao.
Wait, I'm trying to visualize this. It's like taking a cup of dark roast coffee, pouring in a heavy splash of milk, topping it off with cola, and stirring it all into this thick, murky sludge.
That sounds terrible, but yes.
Right, and then you take that cup of sludge and place it 10 kilometers away from me.
You wouldn't be able to see much.
Exactly. I can see that an object is sitting out there on the horizon, but I can't possibly define its borders or tell you what ingredients are inside it. It's a complete blur.
That is a perfect way to picture what Laozi was dealing with.
But I'm struggling with the mechanics here. If Laozi freely admits his vision is a blur, and he doesn't even know the real name of the thing he's looking at, how does he have the authority to write a survival guide for humanity?
It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it deeply irresponsible to build a foundational philosophy on something you admit you can't clearly see?
Your pushback hits on the exact contradiction that this entire deep dive revolves around. To resolve the paradox of a blurry authority, we have to examine what Laozi says about the ultimate trajectory of that blur.
Okay, what's the trajectory?
The sources break down a sequence of key phrases from that same chapter. He says, great means passing, passing means far. And then comes the linguistic tinge of the whole text. Far means returning.
Far means returning. The phrase is yun yu fefnein, right?
Yes, exactly. Yun yu fen.
That sounds like the geometry of a circle.
It is the ultimate expression of cyclical time. This ties into the ancient Chinese concept that things turn around at their extreme. Wu ji bi fen.
Oh, I've heard that phrase. People use it all the time.
They do, but today we tend to misuse it as a form of pop psychology karma.
Right, like, my luck has been terrible at work for 6 months, so I've hit rock bottom, and the universe is about to turn my bad luck into good luck.
Exactly. We turn a cosmic law into a personal coping mechanism.
So what does it actually mean?
The sources clarify that this modern interpretation is completely backwards. Things turn around at their extreme, has nothing to do with an individual's personal luck. No, it is a mechanical description of the trajectory of that blurry thing we talked about. It dictates that this massive unseen pattern is moving along a vast circular track.
A circular track, like the seasons.
Yes. For a long time, it moves further and further away from humanity, becoming increasingly obscure and difficult to comprehend. But the laws of geometry dictate that it will eventually hit a maximum threshold, an extreme. And when it hits that extreme point on the curve, it has no choice but to turn around and begin its return journey.
Meaning the blur eventually comes back into focus.
Yes. And the implication of that return is monumental. It implies that when this pattern circles back in the future, it will finally be seen perfectly clearly by humanity.
So the coffee, the milk, and the cola will be distinctly separated, sitting right in front of our eyes.
Exactly. Laui wasn't just sitting on a mountain writing down his current blurry philosophical musings. He was utilizing the mechanics in a closed loop to project forward.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because if you follow that mechanical logic all the way through, the source material is demanding a massive, paradigm-shifting reclassification of this text.
Oh, absolutely.
It is arguing that the Tao Te Ching is not a book of philosophy or, a meditation guide. It is fundamentally a book of prophecy.
It is an entirely predictive text. That is the core argument the sources are laying out.
That completely flips centuries of academia upside down.
I know, it's radical.
As we mentioned at the start of the deep dive, people read verses from this book to help save their failing marriages. Corporate consultants use it for leadership seminars.
Yeah, they strip away the prophetic elements.
But the text itself is literally screaming, "Hold the Tao of old to master the present." It is telling the reader that the blurry words spoken in the ancient past are actually an engineered blueprint referring to the events of a day still to come.
The ancient words are the tracks for the future train.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that raises a massive geographical question for me.
Just that.
If Laozi tapped into this cyclical law in China, and it's truly a universal law of nature like gravity, then we should logically see other ancient thinkers in completely different parts of the world stumbling upon the exact same tracks.
That makes sense.
So do our sources see this popping up in other traditions, or is it just isolated to Taoism?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the sources argue that this is an unavoidable universal pattern. Because it is a natural law, anyone observing reality deeply enough will map the same geometry.
So it's everywhere.
Pretty much. The deep dive expands into several major global scriptures to demonstrate that they share the exact same predictive DNA.
Okay, give me an example.
The sources direct our attention to the Diamond Sutra, which is arguably one of the most critical texts in the Buddhist tradition.
How does the Diamond Sutra map onto this cyclical pattern?
Well, the context is fascinating. The Buddha is engaged in a deep dialogue with his disciple Subhuti. But he isn't just handing down timeless wisdom on how to clear the mind or practice detachment. He makes a highly specific, chronologically grounded prediction. The Buddha states that 500 years after his passing, a specific person will appear who will truly understand the profound meaning of the text and generate genuine faith from it.
Wait, so the Buddha is essentially telling his closest followers in real time, you are listening to my words right now, but you don't actually comprehend the ultimate utility of them.
Exactly.
He's saying that understanding is reserved for someone centuries from now.
Yes. The text forces the reader to look forward. Millions of modern practitioners read the Diamond Sutra daily to cultivate inner peace or practice mindfulness.
Like the self-help aisle again.
Right. But according to the internal logic of the text itself, the true utility of the words is suspended in time, waiting for a future fulfillment. The book is an arrow pointing toward an extreme point on the curve.
And if this is truly a universal law, we should see it in Western traditions as well.
Yeah.
The sources trace this exact same thread into the biblical text, don't they?
They do, and with striking parallels. The sources point to the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 10.
What does that verse say?
In this passage, God explicitly states the mechanics of his operation, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times things that are not yet done.
Declaring the end for the beginning. Wow. If time is a closed circle, the starting point and the ending point occupy the exact same coordinate.
Exactly. And applying that lens forces a complete rereading of the entire biblical canon.
I can imagine.
Take the very first sentence, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Right, the creation story.
But in modern culture, we read that strictly as a historical account. We debate it as a literal or metaphorical story of the ancient past.
Yeah, it's always debated backwards.
But the sources suggest that if the ultimate mechanism is declaring the end from the beginning, then the creation narrative of Genesis is simultaneously a prophetic blueprint pointing directly toward the end times.
So the mechanics of the beginning are a mirror reflecting the mechanics of the end.
Spot on.
That links flawlessly with the philosophical premise in the book of Ecclesiastes, which the sources also highlight.
Oh yeah, the nothing new under the sun passage.
Yes. There is nothing new under the sun. What has been will be again. It is a total rejection of the Western assumption that time is a straight line moving infinitely forward into uncharted territory.
It really is.
Ecclesiastes is describing the exact same track Laozi was observing. The turning wheel, the immutable cycle of the seasons.
It is the universal thread binding these traditions together. The collective argument of these ancient texts is that the entirety of human history is not a random sequence of novel events.
It's an engineered cycle.
Exactly. It is a highly engineered cycle, specifically designed to explain the mechanics of reality and prepare humanity for the moment the track circles back on itself.
I mean, I follow the logic,
Mm-hmm.
and it constructs a beautifully unified theory of human thought.
Yeah.
But I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
I need to bring a healthy dose of skepticism to the table because the implications of these prophetic claims are staggering.
They are.
Anyone can generate a prophecy. I could sit here right now and confidently predict that tomorrow I will conquer the globe and become a more powerful ruler than Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan.
I'd like to see that.
Right. I can articulate the words perfectly, but why should you or anyone else give my words any weight? Without empirical proof, it just sounds like manipulative rhetoric designed to control a population's behavior.
And that is a very valid critique. But the texts themselves anticipate that exact skepticism.
They do.
Yeah, they don't expect blind gullibility. The sources highlight what they term the mechanism of belief. And they locate the perfect articulation of this mechanism in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 29.
How does the Gospel of John address the demand for proof?
Jesus is instructing his disciples regarding future events, and he lays out the psychological mechanics very clearly. He says, "And now I have told you, before it comes to pass, that when it has come to pass, you might believe."
Interesting.
Look closely at the required sequence there. He is not demanding that they generate absolute, unquestioning belief the moment the words leave his mouth.
Oh, I see.
He is establishing the predictive data beforehand, fully acknowledging that their current vision of it is blurry. The actual generation of belief is engineered to trigger after the historical events align with the prediction.
That makes perfect logical sense. It's like I'm imagining a scenario where I walk up to you on the street and promise, hey, I'm going to hand you a briefcase containing $1 million in unmarked bills next Tuesday.
I would definitely not believe you.
Right. You aren't going to suddenly start treating me like your best friend. You're going to assume I'm completely delusional.
I would absolutely demand collateral or empirical proof before I changed my behavior.
Exactly. Because the verbal promise itself possesses zero power to generate beliefs. But when next Tuesday rolls around and I actually knock on your door, hand you a heavy leather briefcase, and you open it to find $1 million in cash staring back at you,
Then the math changes.
suddenly you have empirical proof. The belief is instantly generated because the geometry of the prophecy was fulfilled.
The physical fulfillment of the event serves as the anchor point for the belief. The blur becomes perfectly clear.
So what does this all mean for us sitting here today? If we synthesize everything we've unpacked, the sources are laying out a rigorous logical imperative.
Which is?
If a text hands you a list of 100 prophecies and you observe over the course of centuries as prophecy 1, prophecy 2, and prophecy 3, all the way up to prophecy 100, manifest in reality exactly as they were engineered.
Then logic dictates that you must begin preparing for the 101st prophecy.
Exactly.
You prepare because the pattern has demonstrated a 100% success rate. The thermodynamic law of the seasons holds true. If autumn has arrived, winter is no longer a theory, it is a mathematical certainty.
Which brings us full circle back to the question of practical utility that we started with.
Yeah.
The highest education.
Right.
The sources frame it perfectly with a modern scenario. Imagine you are given access to verified insider data proving that the entire global financial system is mathematically guaranteed to collapse in exactly 2 years.
Armed with that undeniable proof, you wouldn't just sit on your couch and practice breathing exercises.
No.
You would liquidate assets, change your career trajectory, and actively alter your physical reality to survive the crash.
You would aggressively pivot. Comprehending the true nature of these ancient texts, according to our sources, functions with that exact same urgency.
Yes.
It provides the utility, too, as the Chinese texts phrase it, 避祸得福, which means avoid disaster and gain blessings.
It's about survival.
We aren't talking about extracting a comforting quote to put on a motivational poster. We are talking about analyzing the meteorological data for the end of a cosmic cycle and ensuring you have built shelter before the storm hits.
And that realization forces the ultimate paradigm shift. For centuries, our modern secularized society has patronized these texts.
We really have.
We have diluted the Tao Te Ching, the Diamond Sutra, and the biblical canon down to the level of simple moral compasses or self-care manuals. We have stripped them of their mechanics, reading them solely to learn how to lower our stress levels or be slightly more polite to our neighbors.
Yeah.
But this deep dive strips away that illusion, revealing them as something infinitely more complex and consequential.
Infinitely heavier.
They are not disjointed philosophies. They are intricate, overlapping maps of cyclical prophecy. They were engineered by ancient observers who caught a blurry, distant glimpse of a massive turning wheel of history.
Right.
And they meticulously recorded the trajectory of that wheel specifically to provide future generations with the highest education, the ultimate survival guide for the precise moment that wheel finally completes its circuit and returns.
It fundamentally changes how you view the architecture of history, and it definitely changes how you look at the self-help aisle in a bookstore.
It sure does.
We want to thank you, the listener, for joining us on this deep dive today. Thank you for trusting us to navigate these heavy, incredibly complex sources and distilling the mechanics of these ancient texts together. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, from redefining the original utility of religion to decoding the empirical mechanics of cyclical prophecy.
It has been a profoundly disruptive and fascinating journey through the source material.
But before we sign off, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. A question that builds on the implications of everything we've discussed today.
What's the question?
The sources insist, across completely isolated cultures and thousands of years of human development, that there is absolutely nothing new under the sun. They claim that the entire chaotic span of human history exists simply as a closed loop, designed to explain the mechanics of the end times that are inevitably circling back toward our present moment.
The train returning on the track.
Exactly. So as you go about your evening and you turn on the television or scroll through the headlines on your phone to look at the chaotic, seemingly unprecedented events on the global news tonight, which ancient prophecy are you watching play out in real time, waiting for the moment the blur finally comes into terrifyingly clear focus?